All right. Well, welcome back, everyone. Welcome again to the Youth Type track, where today, for the rest of the day, we'll be talking about tech with a twist, or otherwise known as creative applications within 3D printing. We have a wonderful presentation coming up for a fireside chat called Create a Start 3D Printing Startup 101 with myself as the moderator, and then Christina Perla, who will be a panelist, who's the co-founder and CEO of Makelab. And then we also have Jillian Northrup. Jillian Northrup is the CEO and co-founder of Model Number, a 3D printing furniture company. So I'm very excited to have both of them on stage. Jillian and Christina, if you'd like to turn on your camera and mic and join me up here. Wonderful, awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. Can you make sure that you just say something so we know we can hear each other?
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, awesome, great. No technical difficulties. I love hearing that. All right. So to start with, I think I'm just going to have each of you give the audience a brief introduction about yourself and also the companies that you two have founded. Jillian, would you like to go first?
Sure. My current company is called Model Number. We're an e-commerce furniture, home accessories company with a focus on digital manufacturing with high leveraging of 3D printing. The reason that we are using digital fabrication and specifically 3D printing for most of our pieces is to address the long time furniture industry's shortcomings in wasteful processes and the use of un-eco-friendly materials. So we use only PLA in our 3D printing. We have special formulated PLA made by our manufacturers to use in our particular designs that we're creating. And with the digital manufacturing, we're also able to address another pain point for customers, which is custom manufacturing of products. So for tables and chairs, we're able to allow custom sizing for the pieces with the same amount of lead time as an off-the-shelf part. So that makes it so that we don't hold any inventory. Everything is made on demand, and it allows for custom elements designed to a certain extent by the customers. My previous company is called Because We Can. It's a design build company that also had a lot of digital manufacturing in its processes. We did lots of custom interior build outs, mostly for commercial spaces, but allowed pretty mass, again, very custom pieces because of the digital fabrication that we were utilizing. So that company taught us a lot about digital fabrication. And I started that company about 10 plus years ago. And we learned a lot from there, which gave us part of the inspiration to start this new company.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That's a great little background about it, what you've been up to for the past few years. I greatly appreciate that. Christina, would you like to introduce yourself and Makelab?
Sure. So, hey, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm Christina, the co-founder and CEO of Makelab. Makelab is a 3D printing service that enables design and creative professionals to create, iterate, and prototype faster and better. We're in Brooklyn. We got started in 2017. My co-founder and I took over a friend's company as he was moving. And to go way back, well, not too far back. I don't want to date myself, but like to go a little like way back, what feels like a lifetime ago. I myself am an industrial designer by trade. I was first exposed to 3D printing at Pratt. I did not use it while I was at Pratt because it seemed very complex and I didn't have time to learn the workflow and the process. Found myself using the laser cutter a lot more, but found myself using 3D printing quite frequently as I left my job and started freelancing, taking on product design and development projects for clients. And so that's kind of my little history.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for sharing that. So I think the first question I want to start things off with is that in your backgrounds, you both spoke about how you come from a design or an art background, right? You come from that world. And additive manufacturing is so predominantly overwhelmed, or at least presumably overwhelmed by engineers and very technical people. So why do you think that your art and design background is a huge plus for when you were starting your business, and that this unconventional background gave you an edge up over some of the other 3D printing companies that are out there?
I guess I'll start. A lot of our clients are industrial designers. And so I feel like having that microbial view into the process and personally experiencing those pain points gives me a foundation to which I can build from and be like, that's what I want to address. That's the problem I want to solve. And I'm passionate about it, and I could speak the speak with our clients. I can gauge feedback pretty easily. It just gives us that foundation to work off of. And I feel like that can be really important when you're in an early stage startup.
Awesome. Jillian, did you have anything to add to that point?
Yeah. Our company is, in some ways we feel like we are very unique in that there's not a lot of companies out there producing large scale furniture out of 3D printing. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we're just a furniture company, and in that way, the landscape is incredibly crowded. So, so I don't know that we have really, our leg up is that we're trying to differentiate ourselves with how we are presenting the pieces and what we're trying to accomplish. Mm-hmm. Coming from an art background to, get into these industries, the industries are really art based. So I think you have to have a good sense of, what people are looking for. Other designers are coming to shop from you. What are they looking for? So your clientele well, and you're able to see what good design is. And as we're selling products, we need to be able to make pieces that people are going to want to buy. And that means they have to be well designed.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like too, adding to that, being able to share your passion with your end user, I feel like is an incredible touch point as a brand, but also just it gets their buy-in, you know what I mean? And it gets you excited about what you're waking up to do every day and your purpose in a sense. It helps guide that journey to finding your purpose, especially if you're an early stage startup still defining everything. I feel like that connection is really important, that shared thread.
Absolutely. People want to engage with companies that they're dealing with. They don't want to just deal with a faceless company. So having some backstory and being passionate, having your customers be passionate about what they're doing and also love what you're doing because they love who you are and what you represent and your background is really, really important for a successful company.
For sure.
Definitely. So both of you brought up the point of passion, and Jillian spoke about having that shared thread between yourselves of loving what you do and your customers that love the product that you put out. Christina, you touched on that as well. So, but how do you monetize your passion? Not monetize. That would be boring. But how do you monetize your passion without losing that special spark in the process?
Yeah.
That's hard. I mean, you bring into the question of, do you want to make the thing that you love your full-time job? And I think that comes down to the personality of the person and what the full-time thing is. If you are truly passionate about it and you love it and you want to do it every day, then you should absolutely try to do it as your full-time job. I think, starting a service-based company, you're dealing with people. You have to love that. You have to love all aspects of your company. Well, not all aspects. There's always going to be aspects that you don't love, but you do them, or you figure out ways to get them done so that you can focus on the things that you do love. And once you can make that work, it's amazing, and you never want to do anything else but run your own company.
Yeah. And if you do decide to go down the path of monetizing your passion, I feel like you go through a slew of emotions. There is, at some point, you're bound to be like, why did I do this? You might have some regretful feelings. I don't think it stays, it's just a passing phase. that you kind of have to feel out. And at that point, that's when you have that fork in the road of really setting up boundaries for yourself too, on how you run your business versus like what you love, and trying to keep that passion almost, I'm not sure if this is too abstract in how I'm explaining it, but like keep it as pure as possible and kind of separate out the work from the why. You know what I mean? And have the why fuel the work, but know that the why is kind of its own thing.
And to Christina's point, you know, every so often you're gonna go through phases where you're saying, why am I doing this? And why am I spending my life every waking hour working on this? Because it is a lot of work. You are ingrained in all parts of your business when you are running a business, and it is all consuming into your life. But it also in some ways offers a lot of freedom, and you will go through phases. You know, I have run my own company for over 10 years, and you go through times where you're kind of burned out and you're like, why am I doing this? I should just go get a day job somewhere and punch a clock and not think about things so much. It would be much easier. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of soul searching and a lot of regrouping that I think anyone has to go through with any career path that you go through. And any career path is hopefully based on your passion, so that you can, otherwise, what's the point? Yeah. You spend all your time doing it, so you should really love it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I think that's a really great point, you know, Jillian, of when you start your own company, you want to punch, like, there's times where you want to punch a clock and you're like, I just want to go home and not think about doing this. I know me personally, I started doing freelance work and started my own little LLC. And I had my first bout of that about a week ago when I was putting all this type stuff together, and I still had work to do. And it's just like, I was working on things till late at night. I was like, I really just wish I could have gone to a typical 9 to 5. And it came out of that. But it's like one of those things that I recognize now, speaking to both of you, is a commonality between everyone that takes this journey of entrepreneurship as they go forward with their career. So it makes me feel a lot better knowing that I'm not alone in the process as well. That's just completely normal.
And the truth is that the grass is always greener. You get, the 9 to 5, and you look at people who run their own thing and you say, oh my God, it looks so amazing over there. And when you're in the down times of running your own business, you look at those 9 to 5s and you said, that looks pretty amazing. It's always greener on one side. It's like a soul searching decision you just have to make of what's right for you. Running your own company is not right for everyone, but it is very, very right for a lot of people. And you can be extremely fulfilled by doing it.
Wonderful. So I like that your point that you brought up, like, it's running your own company isn't right for every person. But in this world, in this culture of hyper entrepreneurism, where we see like my school, engineering school, is teaching me entrepreneurship. Every kid learns it. You know, everyone's learning entrepreneurship. Everyone's learning, go get a startup, go do something, go start your own company. How do you know, either Christina or Jillian, that entrepreneurship is right for you? And if the audience members have any Q&As, by the way, feel free to put your messages in the box, in the Q&A box as well as we go forward. But how do you know?
Through speaking with, it's a little difficult to answer because I think, I know for myself that it is the right thing for me. I know a lot of people through speaking with them that it's not the right thing for them. There's a lot of risk involved, so you have to be very okay with risk. There's a lot of things that are very undefined, and you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with bowling forward on unproven concepts and hunches, with the possibility to fail. And you have to be okay with failure. And when you fail, you have to be okay with, keeping going and not letting it phase you too badly.
Yeah. And to add on to that initial decision, I feel like it can be gut a lot of times. For example, because this Makelab came out of an acquisition over a friend's company, I talk about this all the time. I literally got this text message from the previous owner on a Sunday evening. It was like dark and cold and winter. And he was like, hey, let's set a meeting. I want to talk to you about taking over the business because we're moving. And my physical reaction to that, I just started getting sweaty. I like wanted to tell my now fiance and co-founder. I started getting a little shaky. I just felt this like ball of excitement in the pit of my stomach that told me like, if I don't do this, or at least try, I'm going to regret and wonder why, like what could have happened, like what could have come out of it. And for me, entrepreneurship and startup life was a way of, I'm like a generalist. So it was a way for me to challenge myself on multiple facets, because sticking to just, being in the product development process as an industrial designer and like doing the sketching and iterating and prototyping like that, the previous years leading up to this didn't feel enough for me. There was something that didn't feel enough. And I thought it was the environment. I went from a big company to a smaller company, and it turns out it was just, owning the entire process that I really needed and wanted.
And that's perfect representation of Christina's personality and where her passion lies. I've met people who, if they had received that text, would have said, "Oh, hell no."
Yeah.
So, knowing herself and knowing her reaction to that, she is perfect for stepping into that role.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. And Christina, you spoke about the generalism, like you are a generalist. So you want to challenge yourself on these smaller facets, but as anyone that's worked on a team knows, like you cannot be an expert on everything. So how important is it for you to build a team of specialists and generalists and get that right mix? And how important is it to your business and your business success that you get that mixture and chemistry right?
Yeah. It's a loaded question. a lot of ways I could take it. One is, I'm a firm believer. Well, my business, we're a service bureau business. I need a team. Like we need different people owning different parts of the process to get something out the door. That's one. We didn't always start out that way. We started out with myself and one other person running the machines. And that was back in 2017. The way I see it, being a generalist, it gives you visibility over things. It lets you be potentially a great operator, meaning you can easily spot bottlenecks. You can easily spot when things are working, when things are not. And what I like to do as we've grown is I like to do the position myself until I've got it down. Then I can teach it to someone. And I think there are quite a few of leaders in startups that take this approach where they try to master something, then delegate it. So that way they really know what they're looking for in the position, because team is great. But if you have someone that really isn't a great fit, it could, especially at such a small company where the dynamics are literally everything. Your people are your culture, especially at that level. Everyone has such a big influence on the culture. You just need to make sure that's right. And so I always did it by doing a very hands-on approach. And while that's not always the case for everyone, I feel like the way that Makelab turned out and the way we've grown, that made sense for our business. We wanted a really strong foundation before trying to scale this thing massively and rapidly. So that's what we did.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, those early team members are really key for the business and how the business is going to, what the values of the business are going to be, what the feeling within the company is going to be, how the company runs, is really pivotal on those early hires. And if you have someone that's not right, you need to move on and get the right team that's the right mesh of people. Not all startups have to have a team, of course. I mean, you can, depending on the business, you can be a solo operator. But if you want to scale at all, most businesses are going to have some kind of a team, whether it's small or large.
For sure, definitely. So I think like you touched a lot on the team and scaling and bringing in more people. So you're all like, Christina and Jillian, you both run relatively small businesses, I would considering we're not at GE size. So who is responsible for hiring the correct people? And is that something that you, as the kind of generalist that's running everything, have time for? Is that your job? Who does this?
Yeah, so this was an iterative process, and I feel like I just got my recruitment process down. For a while, it would overwhelm me, right? Because it was just added to the stack of things that everything I needed to do, And so I would, as important as it was, and as much as I believe in people really being the bloodline of your business, I kind of put it to the back burner. And there have been times where I rushed the hiring process, and that was a huge mistake. And so now what I do is I make sure to do the intake, and I do a first round filter. And then now that Makelab has advisors that really know the business and know the culture and know where we want to go, I have the potential, the candidates interview with 2 other people before they get to me and my co-founder. So by the time they get to me and my co-founder, I already have feedback on those people. I might have already called references, blind reference checks, very important if you can. I already sussed them out, and I don't have to go as hard. So I'm able to really embody that moment and that meeting and really understand what the relationship would be if we hired that person and take my time with it. So that's our process now. It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, when you're first starting out and it's a small company, it's just going to be you doing the hiring, and you'll probably make mistakes, but that's how you learn about what to look for and what not to look for, and how to advertise your positions, so that you get good candidates as well. Your references and your contacts are super important for that, reaching out to your network to get good people that can be part of your team. But yeah, in the beginning, it's very overwhelming to hire people. It's pretty all consuming.
Yeah.
But over time, once you have a team to help you vet, then it becomes easier, and that's in a much better position to be, to have a team working together to bring in more great team members.
And I feel like in the beginning too, like I was 25 or 26 when Makelab started. So I was feeling a lot of imposter syndrome. Sorry. I have a sailor's mouth.
What a youth track. We're cool.
I was feeling a lot of imposter syndrome. So I felt this pressure to always be the cool boss. I was like, I don't want to be like Miss Boss Lady. I want to be cool boss. And so I feel like that really affected my hiring, and I made a lot of mistakes because of that. And now my mentality is I can be cool boss later once they're in, but I should put up all the walls at first and really, really step into that and embrace it, because that's the time to do it. You can't be cool.
I mean, you want to make sure that you get people that are there for the right reasons, that are there to do the job because they're interested in it and really want to be there. There's nothing more valuable than someone that really wants to be at your company. There's been times when we've brought in people just because of their passion around wanting to work with the company, and we've just tried to find a place for them because those people will just work. They'll make things work within your company because they care about it so much. And having that small team with people with a lot of passion is just really powerful.
And those people, those super passionate and hungry people, it's a two-way relationship all the time, and that's how it starts. So they'll tell you feedback too, and it'll be very organic to find their right spot. It becomes easy.
Yeah, and they'll help build the company into what you're trying to do. So it's great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, and you mentioned there was a really good point that Christina you brought up, and that was, and Jillian as well, you did touch on it. It was, like I felt like I needed to be cool boss, but like, I needed to lay down the law the first time I met these people. And I know I personally have had experiences where I've recognized that, like oftentimes being an underling and being friends with your boss or having that cool boss relationship can sometimes get in the way of what, like, knowing what your responsibilities are. Because you know they're your friends, like you can slack a little bit, like if you're a day late, they're not going to get mad at you. And I found out that to be very like detrimental relationship for me as an employee. So I think it's a very interesting aspect how you're like, okay, people need to know I'm cool, but they need to know I am the boss. And I really like that point that you touched on. Is there any advice that you can give people, that are looking to hire and want to be liked by their employees, but at the same time still be able to be respected?
I think there's a line between being like the cool boss and really showing that you care about your employees. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what matters and that's what your employees are going to care about. You're not taking a job because you're looking for a friend. You're taking a job because you're looking for a job. And if you have a team that you're working with and you know that team, that everyone cares about each other, you don't have to be best friends, but you need to be respectful and, passionate about having a good working relationship.
And I think it's too, like, definitions are important. And I feel like definitions change as you mature or evolve into the next level of yourself or your business. And so cool boss can mean many things, but what does it mean for you and your company? Like what's project like and envision what the relationship that you want with your employees to be. And then what are the boundaries that go along with it? And what are the methods in which you show that your employees are respected and validated in certain times? And then what's the method of, giving feedback and really thinking super detailed about that, I think helps. It gives it a place and a home, which was part of the struggle for me. I couldn't envision myself giving tough feedback because, in my past, I come from Pratt, things were pretty harsh. And I know I didn't want to be that, but I couldn't envision another way at the time. So I was working on realizing that.
Mm-hmm, definitely. So we are coming to the last couple of minutes of our panel here. And we had a good question that I think was really interesting. So one of our constituents is asking, how do you deal with FOMO when kind of deciding to go all in on a decision or an opportunity for a previous one?
Like a business opportunity, like a partnership or something.
Yeah, like Christina was offered the chance to take over Makelab, and I'm sure, Jillian, you had this opportunity to create yours. Like if you didn't do it, how would you deal with that FOMO? Or was there another opportunity you could have taken and you kind of had that fear of missing out on that other opportunity that you decided to take the process?
Good question.
Yeah, I think that's just like every day of business. You're making decisions of what you're going to get into and what you're not. One of the things that my partner and I did early on when we started our first company is we made this list of it was actually a list of words. It was 5 words. And if we wanted to take on a job, we had to run it by these 5 words. And if it passed the 5 words, then we would take it. And if it didn't pass the 5 words, and we wanted to take it, we would seriously consider why we were taking it and if it was a good idea, and we would most likely pass on it, even if it sounded cool. And some of those words were pretty general, like words like creative. One of our first company, it had to pass. It had to be reasonable. It had to be sustainable, meaning that we could do the job again and again and not hate it. It had to be creative in some way. And these words really helped us as we were getting all these distractions coming at us, all these people saying like, will you do this? Will you do that? It made it really easy to answer those questions and not feel like we had made a bad decision because we had pre-thought about it so that we didn't have to rethink about it in a complex way every time.
That's such a good point. Lately in Makelab, I've been trying to add metrics to decision-making, and I feel like you just hit it right on. Like having a framework for decision-making makes decision-making a lot easier. It's like, it takes it off of this is a personal decision and rather like, I can't justify this decision, or I can justify this decision.
Yeah, metrics are great. One of the other things we would do is like after a job was complete, we would rate it. So we would go, we had this list, and then we would go down the list and we would rate it from 1 to 5. Like, was this, and some of the ratings were like, was it fun? And if it got like a super low rating, then it would be like, why wasn't it fun? And maybe we shouldn't do a job like that again, because if everyone hates it, then why are we doing that? So it would get a score at the end, and then we would score these things and we'd kind of talk about it and why it got that score. And that kind of, pre and post thinking about individual scenarios around what you're like, that was a service industry in particular. So that was like jobs that we were taking. And we were able to think about these jobs in that way. It really relieved the second guessing of your decisions.
For sure, definitely. Well, we just came up on our time. Like, we got a ton of questions in the last 3 minutes of this panel. So I'm going to see if we could maybe do a Women 3D Printing, Startup 101, a fireside chat again, where we have a little bit more time than a half hour. But real quick, Christina, yes or no? Do you offer Makelab franchises?
Wow, interesting question.
Yes or no? You got like 10 seconds.
Stay tuned.
Yay, I like that. There you go. Leave it hanging. All right, Jillian, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. And to all of our young viewers, we're currently hiring. If anyone is interested, you want to check it out, our website careers page.
Very cool.
All right, I love that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate your time. And if you want to turn off your camera and mic so I can introduce our next speaker.
Bye-bye.